Hello everyone and welcome back to the 80s Slasher Library. It's time for Sinister Story Time with your host, the 80s Slasher Librarian. Today's Twisted Tale is a continuing story of Halloween the Scream Factory, starting with Chapter 18. Matt screeched through town, jolting to a stop at every red light. He cranked up the radio and beat his fist against the dashboard to the rhythm of the screaming rock music. He didn't care. The Jeep was trashed. Damn it. Matt made a left turn onto Old Ranch Road and punched the gas. The wide open road made him feel a little better. He unrolled his window and let the crisp air blow through his hair. He took a deep breath of the pine scent from the forest that blanketed both sides of the highway. Sally's never going to forgive me, he thought. He'd known all along that she had nothing to do with the vandalism. He just wanted to blame someone. I'm such a jerk. Matt saw the towering pine that had nearly killed them last night, still lying on the shoulder. He thought about Sally and what had almost happened in the jacuzzi last night. He had to get back and apologize to her. He'd stop and buy her some flowers on the way back, he decided. Matt remembered that he still had to buy the candy and green fruit punch. He made a ride onto Ripley Road and headed toward the supermarket that was a few miles down. Matt slowed as he passed the old Myers house. A police car was parked outside with the windows rolled down. The rotting old house cast an eerie shadow across the weeded yard in the early moonlight. What was going on in there, he wondered, pulling to the side of the road. Maybe the officer inside would take a vandalism report on his car. Matt hesitated before getting out. The house seemed to be warning him to stay away. He shook his head in an attempt to clear his mind. He threw on an oversized denim shirt and followed the path of broken stepping stones around back. "Hello?" he called, walking through the side yard. There was no answer. Matt approached the back door, which was sealed off with banners of yellow police tape. "Police barrier, do not cross." "Weird," he whispered, as goosebumps popped up on his skin. "I'm out of here," he said to himself. The house was giving him the creeps. Matt had never listened to the stories the kids told. He believed in checking things out for himself, and so far, he'd seen nothing to make him believe in ghosts and ghouls and the boogeyman. Just some stupid, creepy pranks. That's why the police were here, he rationalized. Matt's sneakers crunched in the dirt as he started back around the side of the house. The officer could be anywhere, in the woods or even next door. "Hey!" Matt jumped at the sound of a voice that snapped like a whip crack. He looked up and saw Chief Grandy staring down at him from the second-story window. "What in tarnation are you doing here, boy?" he demanded, eyeing the teenager with suspicion. Matt caught his breath, his heart pumping furiously. I just saw your car parked out here and wanted to see if you could take a vandalism report real quick. Someone trashed my car today. It's sitting out front," Matt said. Grandy sighed. "Your car, huh? Okay, son, I'll be right down. Take a look." Anxious to get away from the house, Matt went and leaned against the Jeep. Minutes passed. "What is he doing in there?" Matt wondered, looking at his watch impatiently. "Sally's really going to be steamed if I'm late," he thought. Matt called out, "Chief, are you coming out?" The wind picked up, whispering through the forest. Matt's feet led him back to the front porch. He carefully stepped around the caved-in boards and pushed the front door open. A wave of musty, mildewed air made him cough. He stepped inside the eerily dark house. He wasn't too afraid, though, with the police chief inside, somewhere. "Chief," he called. "I've got to go, man. I'm running late," he said, his voice seeming to disappear into the peeling wallpaper. Matt gripped the railing of the staircase and carefully felt his way up by touch. The staircase groaned as he reached the top. "Hello?" he said softly, as not to startle the chief. After all, the man did carry a gun and probably didn't like being sneaked up on. "Aha! There you are," Matt said with a sigh, spotting a light down the hall in the front bedroom. He followed the light through the darkness and reached for the doorknob. He pushed the door open. "Chief, I've really got to go, sir. I'm late for a party and—" Matt froze in shock. Through the dim, flickering light of a jack-o'-lantern, the crumpled body of Police Chief Grandy became visible, lying in a pool of fresh blood that pumped silently around the butcher knife embedded in his heart. Matt tried to drown out the horrible sound of his own screaming. His knees became weak, and his brain was unable to believe what his eyes were seeing. The badge on the chief's chest flashed in the jagged flashes of light. He was dead. His glassy eyes stared lifelessly in the orange glow from the jack-o'-lantern. "Oh God, this isn't really happening!" Suddenly Matt heard a noise, a faint stomping sound. Footsteps. His glint of hope that it might be help instantly turned to terror as he realized that the sound was moving up the stairs. Someone was in the house. Matt's heart stopped. He could barely breathe or move his muscles. He forced himself to take a step. Instinctively, he pried the bloody knife out of Grandy's chest, and it slid out with the sound of a sickening crunch of bones. The footsteps moved slowly and heavily toward the room. Matt was trapped. He could hear the killer breathing in the darkness. Matt struggled to stay conscious. His head was spinning and his heart pounded painfully in his chest. This can't be happening. The dark shape now stood in the doorway. Matt could feel his cold, rancid breath as he growled softly. The figure stepped into the flickering light. His entire horrifying body, covered in a muddy and bloody navy blue jumpsuit, was visible. Matt let out a deafening scream. It was Michael Myers. Matt's arm froze as he tried to raise the knife, horrified by the black, dead eyes watching him from behind the white plastic mask, beneath a tangle of matted, wiry hair. The hideous monster raised his arms and lunged forward. Matt jumped backward toward the bedroom window. Michael Myers lunged again, coming closer and closer. "I'm going to die," Matt kept thinking. Using all of his energy, Matt drove the knife through the eye hole in the mask. A dark stream of blood trickled down the white plastic as Michael Myers stumbled backward. Matt struggled to pry open the window. Michael Myers pulled the knife out of his eye and began slashing at the air, moving closer to Matt. Matt jammed the window open and looked down at the concrete below. It was his only chance. He dove out the window, landing with a crash on a pile of boards below. Stars shone in his closed eyes for a moment, as excruciating pain set in his ankle. He screamed out for help, but there was no one around. Matt forced himself to get up. He had to get help. If he could only make it to the Jeep. He winced with every painful step. The Jeep was still there, thank God. But what was the hood doing up? I don't remember. Terror filled his brain as he stared at the handle of an axe driven through his engine. A tangle of ripped wires and hoses sprouted out from under the hood. Never had he been so alone and helpless and terrified. "Run, Matt, run," he told himself. "Through the woods. Gotta get back to town. Go. Forget about the pain. Just run." Matt stumbled across the street into the black forest. The woods were the fastest way back. Only a mile. If he could just make it back into town. He had to make it. Had to warn the others. Had to get away from Michael Myers. He disappeared into the darkness and limped toward the lights of downtown Haddonfield. Chapter 19. Lori sat glumly on the old brown sofa in the City Hall lobby. She wished she could just leave this place. She wanted to forget about the whole miserable thing. But the music from the basement wouldn't let her. Every note of Jake's screaming voice painfully stuck her, like a sharp needle. "I've been such a fool," she thought. "I knew he was trouble from the moment I saw him. What a lying, two-timing creep." But something deep inside her mind told her that she was wrong. Dead wrong. Sally took her time walking up the wide steps of City Hall from the parking lot. Her head hung low as she tried to make sense of the stupid argument that she'd had with Matt. Why was he acting so crazy, she wondered? Why had he turned on her like a rabid pit bull? She remembered the look on Marcia's face when they'd publicly humiliated her at school today. The memory didn't seem very funny now. It seemed evil and cruel. Sally was starting to regret doing it, even though Marcia certainly had deserved it. Maybe the universe is paying me back now, balancing things out, she thought. Was that it? Or was more punishment still coming, she wondered. Sally wiped her eyes before she opened the heavy door. She spotted Lori sitting on the couch in the lobby. Lori was really upset about something. Sally set the pink bag on the floor and seated herself next to her friend. Forgetting about her own problems, she put a comforting arm around Lori. "Hey, Lori, what's wrong? What are you doing up here?" she asked. Lori gave Sally a tight hug. Oh, Sally, I'm so scared. I tried to tell Jake, and she began to sob, unable to finish her sentence. Sally squeezed her hand with concern. Lori was usually pretty tough. Something must be really wrong. Shh! Calm down. What's the matter, Lore? Sally asked softly. Lori forced herself to snap out of the overwhelming grief she was feeling. She wiped a tear from her blue eyes. I found out that I overheard the mayor talking to the police chief, and they think that Michael Myers is back. Sally released her hand and sat back to look at her friend. Oh, ha ha, very funny, Lori. She rolled her eyes. And I thought you were serious. Thanks for the scare. Lori grabbed Sally's hands. Fear and desperation filled her eyes. She whispered, No, it's true. They found a dead cop this morning in the woods, all chopped up. Please. Sally, you've got to believe me. Lori wasn't lying. This wasn't a joke. Fear spread across Sally's face. Oh my God! A picture of the trashed Jeep and the tree and the sound of the alarm at Jake's house flashed in her mind. And Matt, somewhere out there, her voice croaked. Do you think? Lori nodded. I think he's after us. Sally was on the verge of panic as she scooped the duffel bag into her arms. What did Jake say? Why is he still playing down there? We should get out of here right now. Lori stood up, feeling a little dizzy, not believing this conversation was actually taking place. No, Jake said we should stay here. He's right. Safety in numbers. It's too dangerous out there. Although Lori didn't have much faith in Jake right now, she didn't have faith in anything. She glanced around nervously. Where's Matt, Sally? Sally trembled like a scared little girl. Matt's out there, Lori. Someone ruined his car and we got in a fight. He took off. I don't know if he's coming back. She wished she could take back that last sentence. She burst into tears, unable to control her fear any longer. We've got to find him. We've got to warn him. I can't let him. Sally, Lori yelled, suddenly feeling a surge of strength. Someone had to take charge around here, she thought. Snap out of it. Sally looked at her dumbly. We've got to fight. It's up to us, you and me, Sally. Sally seemed to be listening. Okay now. Lori took a deep breath, making up the plan as she spoke. Let's go put on our costumes and have this party. Everyone will be showing up soon and there'll be hundreds of us. Nothing will happen. If Michael Myers tries to crash the party, he'll be sorry. Sally nodded her head in agreement. You're right. Matt will be back soon and everything will be fine. He can't kill all of us, she said, and tried to laugh. Lori smiled. That's right. Let's go make ourselves beautiful. The girls walked up to the first floor bathroom. Sally dumped their costumes and a bag of makeup onto the counter. War paint, she joked. Lori was actually feeling much better. She couldn't believe how hysterical she'd let herself get over the whole thing. Even if something did happen, the mayor had ordered extra security tonight. She picked up her costume, a black spandex leotard, and a pair of fuzzy cat ears. It was all she could come up with on such short notice. Sally eyed the skimpy garments. Meow! Jake's going to be drooling after you like a dog. Lori slipped off her denim jacket, trying to decide whether or not she should paint whiskers on her cheeks with black eyeliner. Personally, I don't care what Jake thinks, she snapped. She explained. We got in a fight, too. He's being a real jerk. Sally pulled her hair back and put on her black Cleopatra wig. No way! You guys just got together. You're fighting already? She asked in disbelief. Yeah, Lori groaned. It appears that Mr. Wonderful already has a girlfriend, according to his obnoxious buddies. Lori pulled a pair of sheer, glittery hose and high-heeled pumps from the bag. She's going to be here tonight, she said. What? Sally exclaimed. She's coming here? To our party? Ooh, this is totally too weird. Brenda, Lori said with hate in her voice. That's her name. The guys in the band invited her. I guess they didn't know that Jake and I were seeing each other. Oh, Lori, I am so sorry, girl, she said. An idea flashed in Sally's head. We've got to make you look gorgeous tonight. You know, making choose. Lori winced as Sally ran a brush through her long blonde hair. I don't even know if I want him anymore, Sal, Lori said. I'm sure I want him, she thought hopelessly. Sally pointed to the chair in front of the mirror. Just have a seat and let me fix you up. We'll transform you into a sex kitten. Sally sifted through her little tubes and bottles. I don't know, Lori said. She's probably 6 feet tall with piles of perfect curly blonde hair. Sally smiled, her Cleopatra wig sparkling in the fluorescent lights. Well, you're 5'7", right? With those shoes and my curling iron, we've almost got it made. Besides, you're one of the prettiest girls at school. No one can compete with you. Except, maybe, me, she laughed. Lori felt a glimmer of hope. She was almost looking forward to meeting her nemesis. Yeah, she said. Make me look like Pamela Anderson. Sally joked. Hey, I'm an amateur beautician, not a plastic surgeon. Lori glanced at her chest and burst into a fit of giggles. Well, there's plenty of toilet paper in here, she said and snorted. Maybe there is hope. Sally glanced at her watch and thought about Matt. It was nearly 6. Where the hell was he? Sally asked. You don't think Matt would ditch me and go to Marcia's party, do you? Are you kidding? No way, Lori said. Even if you guys got in a fight, he still wouldn't go there. I don't think he would. Sally remembered the way Matt had held up Marcia's invitation when he'd first received it, as if he was honored to have been invited. Yeah, I guess you're right, she said, feeling unsure of herself. He'd better come back here. He will, Lori said. If I know Matt, he's probably driving around blowing off some steam. He'll show up about half an hour late just to make you squirm. So stop worrying and get back to work on me. The girls changed into their costumes and walked through the lobby. The music from the basement had stopped, and the old clerk was busy lighting the jack-o'-lanterns. A lot of kids Lori recognized from school were milling around on the stairs outside. Everyone was dressed up in a wild costume. Lori felt very sexy in her cat costume. Sally had really made her look good. Beneath the furry cat ears, her hair hung in loose spiral curls down the middle of her back. Her sheer black stockings caught the glowing light of the candles. Maybe Jake will see me before he goes on stage, she thought. Lori smiled confidently at Sally. All the guys were looking at the two of them. Sally looked really spectacular. She winked at a crowd of boys and tossed her straight black wig back. It contrasted beautifully with her green eyes, which she'd skillfully painted with black eyeliner. She wore a form-fitting gold dress, a snake bracelet that wrapped around her bare arm, and a silver choker with a giant scarab dangling from the end. The girls went inside and began greeting their guests. The mayor wanted to give a little promotional speech before the party, and had asked them to keep everyone outside until the music started playing. Chapter 20. The moon was the only light Matt had to get him through the thick woods of Haddonfield. His heart pounded as he moved as quickly as possible through the dense trees. The pain in his ankle was excruciating now as he stumbled along. He tried, without much luck, to erase the horrifying image of Michael Myers from his mind as he ventured further into the blackness of the forest. The dead eyes behind the mask seemed to be watching, following. Keep going, keep running, he told himself. No longer able to see the moon through the trees, Matt stopped. He tried to get back his sense of direction. Where am I? Nothing made any sense right now. That's when he heard the noise behind him. The bone-crunching sound of footsteps. Oh God, no! Come on, Matt, keep going, he coaxed himself. He began running blindly. His legs became numb as he picked up speed. The footsteps were louder and closer as his follower gained on him. Matt heard the same unearthly growling, just feet behind him. He didn't dare turn around. He couldn't do anything but run. Without warning, Matt felt himself falling deep into the cold, wet earth. He landed with a painful thud on what felt like jagged rocks. Freezing water soaked through his ripped clothing, further numbing his pain-stricken, exhausted body. Matt screamed as he tried to claw his way out, still unable to figure out where he was. It was so dark and black. He heard a noise from above. He looked up and screamed out in horror. His body hurt too much to move. The footsteps were above him, circling him. The white face peered down into the ditch. Something shiny gleamed in the hand of Michael Myers as it caught the moonlight. This can't be happening. Overwhelmed by shock and pain, Matt felt himself slipping away. He struggled to fight the feeling off. He forced himself to be silent, be still. Play dead, don't move, he told himself. Metal crunched into the ground above. Something cold and heavy hit his face. Crunch. It hit him again and again. No, he can't bury me alive. The suffocating dirt surrounded Matt, as shovelful after shovelful seemed to trap his broken body. The footsteps circling above sounded distant, and the image of the face seemed to grow dim as if heavy fog were rolling in. Way off in the distance, Matt heard the faint sound of Mayor Jameson on a loudspeaker. "Happy Halloween, citizens of Haddonfield. Welcome to the Scream Factory. It's so nice to see all of you teenagers here tonight, and I'd like..." Suddenly the shoveling stopped. Michael Myers was silent, except for his heavy, raspy breathing. Matt saw his hulking frame turn around towards City Hall. He seemed to be in some sort of a trance. He lurched off into the woods, following the sound. Matt tried to get some air through the dirt that buried him almost up to his neck. He knew where Michael Myers had gone and what he was going to do. "No! Oh God, no! I've got to warn them!" Matt struggled to free his arms from the cold dirt, thinking of Sally and all of his friends in grave danger. If he could only break free, he had to break free. The pain in Matt's body seemed to fade away as the blackness began to close in around him. He could no longer fight the comforting darkness. His eyes closed and his one free hand went limp. Chapter 21. Mayor Jameson smiled at the crowd of teenagers who were anxiously waiting to go inside. He was very pleased with the overwhelming response to the party. He called Sally and Lori to join him at the top of the stairs. The mayor spoke into his megaphone. "Let's have a big round of applause to these two ladies who put this whole party together for you. Come on up, Lori and Sally." The girls smiled proudly as the kids cheered and clapped. A few of the boys made catcalls at their sexy costumes. Lori peered out at the faces in the crowd, wondering which one was the infamous Brenda. The mayor thanked the girls again and turned to the crowd of teenagers. Their bodies entirely filled the massive staircase and were spilling out into the street. "Are you ready to scream, everyone?" he yelled. The cheers and excited hoots grew even louder, filling the cold night air in downtown Haddonfield. The mayor swung open the lobby doors. "All right then, welcome to the Scream Factory!" Crowds of teenagers poured into the lobby and down the basement stairs. Lori and Sally led the way. The strobe lights flickered and fog poured through the maze. A tape of howling wind, cackling witches, and screaming banshees filled the air. Sally laughed as she heard some of the kids behind her jump with surprise when they saw the monsters. Their menacing faces had been placed around every corner of the maze. The old guillotine gleamed eerily between the stage and the end of the maze. Lori had personally chosen to put the monster with the Wolfman head in its metal clutches. Hundreds of bodies spilled out onto the dance floor from the narrow corridors of the maze. Matt's giant spiderweb hung overhead, holding hundreds of black and white balloons for release at the end of the night. Lots of kids made their way to the refreshment tables and drank the green fruit punch and chomped on orange pumpkin-shaped cookies. Lori looked at the stage, which was completely hidden by a heavy black curtain. She couldn't hear any sound coming from behind it, over all the noise. All of a sudden, the scary tape clicked off, and the dim lights went out. Smoke billowed through the room. Confused voices and frightened cries filled the room. Sally grabbed Lori's hand in the darkness. "What's going on? This wasn't part of the plan." Lori looked around nervously. The smoke seemed to be getting thicker. I don't know," Lori cried. Up on top of the storage cage, a flashlight clicked on, lighting up the face of what looked to be the devil himself. An evil laughter filled the room. The crowd held their breath. No one knew what to think. Suddenly a red light and siren flashed on, and the curtain across the stage fell to the pounding beat of drums. The devil jumped off the top of the cage, landing in the middle of the stage. He screamed into the microphone as the band went into a fast hard rock number. It was Jake. His energy filled the whole room as he climbed up and down the cage walls like a wild animal. Lori squealed with excitement before she remembered how mad she was at him. She had to admit, it was a great trick. He'd really surprised everyone. Sally yelled over the blasting music. "He is so hot! Look at him go! Oh my God!" The crowd began dancing to the wild music. Colored lights flashed across the masked faces of what must have been a crowd of 300 or more people. Lori couldn't take her eyes off of Jake. He painted his face and bare, muscular chest bright red and had 2 horns sticking out of his head. He ran the stage in his skin-tight black leather pants with a red devil's tail sewn in the back. He did look very sexy, she thought. A bunch of girls made their way up to the edge of the stage and were holding their hands out to him, screaming his name and giggling. The other band members wore black t-shirts and jeans and stayed in the background, blending in with the curtains. Lori listened to Jake's beautiful, haunting voice as he sang out the chorus of the song he'd let her listen to a few days earlier. I'm the boogeyman baby and I'll never die. I'm the boogeyman baby and that's no lie. I'm the boogeyman baby, so don't even try to get away from me. Lori forced herself to look away from him. She wanted him so badly, wanted to kiss him again right now. She wished she could turn back time to last night at his house, when they'd lain on the couch together, and she'd felt the electricity flowing between them. A time before everything got all screwed up, before she knew the truth. The song ended, and the room thundered with applause and screams. Jake had it all now, Lori thought. Girls, popularity, talent. There was no turning back. A huge grin spread across Jake's face as he caught his breath after the song. He peered out into the crowd looking for Lori, but couldn't make out anything but a sea of screaming faces. The crowd screamed out for more. He took a moment to introduce the band members. Jake shouted into the microphone, "Are you ready to rock tonight?" The audience cheered and they played an old Kiss song. The drums beat furiously and the crowd danced as Jake sang. Lori walked over to the refreshments table and nodded hello to the old clerk, who was pouring cups of punch. Lori sat down on a folding metal chair and buried her head in her hands. She was hopelessly miserable. She was in love. Sally found Lori sitting by herself. She came bounding over. "You seen Matt around yet, Lor?" "No," Lori said, her eyes cast downward. "I can't wait until this night is just over." "What's with the wallflower bit, Lor? It doesn't suit you," Sally joked. Lori sighed. "Duh, Sal. What do you think? I'm totally infatuated with the hottest guy in the room, and he couldn't care less." Sally pushed her snake bracelet up on her arm. Her mind wandered back to her own love problems. "You'll be fine, Lori." She was silent for a moment, trying to figure out what to do. It just wasn't like Matt to totally disappear off the face of the earth. "I'm going to call Matt's house," she declared. "I'm starting to get worried. I'll catch you later." "Yeah," Lori said, and sighed glumly. "Later." Sally made her way through the maze and climbed up the basement steps to the deserted lobby. The jack-o'-lanterns cast a creepy orange glow across the polished hardwood floor. She fished a quarter out of a tiny purse and dropped it in the slot of the payphone. She dialed Matt's number, which she'd memorized the first week they started dating. So long ago. How she longed for things to get back to normal. Matt was really missing out on a great party, and she was missing Matt. Why did he have to pick tonight to freak out, she wondered. Matt's mom answered. "Hi, Mrs. Hudson, it's Sally," she said into the receiver. "Is Matt there?" Her hopeful expression became a mask of disappointment. "Oh," she answered. "Yeah, we did have a date, but we argued earlier," she explained. "Okay, thanks, ma'am. I'll talk to you soon. Bye." Sally hung up the phone and shivered. Her skimpy costume was doing nothing to protect her from the drafty cold air. "Next year, I'm going to dress up as an Eskimo," she said to herself. Where was he? He hadn't even come home to change into his costume. Sally flopped onto the couch in the lobby and stared at her reflection in the glass doors. "Come on, Matt, you big jerk," she thought. "Haven't you tortured me enough?" Unbeknownst to Sally and everyone in the Scream Factory, there was an uninvited guest on his way through the woods, coming to crash the party. Okay, this has been chapters 18, 19, 20, and 21 of Halloween the Scream Factory. We got one more upload left. Tomorrow will be the conclusion of this book. I am actually enjoying this book. Whenever I went into this, I knew it was a young adult novel, written for teens, but I gotta say, it's been a pretty entertaining book. Leaps and bounds better than Hell Lake, the Friday the 13th novel. Yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think so far, and what you think's going to happen in the final installment that will be out tomorrow. Until then, this has been your host, the 80 Slasher Librarian, saying, thanks for listening, and it's getting late. The library is now closed. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here!